A year and a half ago, I was working with a colleague who's a very experienced consultant in the automotive industry. This colleague, Russ Eccles, has worked within the automotive industry for about 25 years. And he started being asked to tackle the following problem, which is on any given day in the automotive industry in Detroit, up to 20% of their workforce does not show up for work. And these are younger workers. They're late teens and early 20s to late 20s. And they routinely give themselves days off. Now, you can't run a manufacturing facility with, 1/5 of your workers gone. And so it's been a huge concern. In terms of bargaining issues, it's number 2 right now, employee absenteeism. So he was asked by the leaders of the big 3 automakers to please go and find out what's going on. So he became very interested in generational differences. And what he started to notice with a generation that's either called Generation Y or the Millennials is that they have very different attitudes towards work, towards family, towards relationships. And these, what he found is that the reason they don't come to work is there are multiple reasons. One is that they are truly self-indulgent. They find a great trip to the Caribbean on the web, and they just give themselves a 4-day weekend. The second thing is they have families, and they are creating work-life balance the way most of us never accomplished. So they're just taking time to be home with their kids. The third thing is that they watched their parents be abused and fired and rehired and fired again by these large corporations, and they simply will not make the same bad bargain. They do not trust these corporations for very good reasons, because they were the children who suffered from that. And the fourth thing is they're creative. They have other jobs that involve them in music, running nightclubs, DJing, doing film and video projects. They're very creative. So while Russ is getting a nice full picture of who these younger people are, the response on the part of the automotive industry, the leadership there, is that they are sitting in their offices still trying to find just the right wording for an employee absentee policy, believing that if they write the right punishing policy, the employees will show up. The second thing they're doing is they're hiring ex-military to come in and be supervisors. So they are putting pressure on these young workers. The third thing they're doing, which is the most horrifying to me, is they've created positions called absentee coordinators. And an absentee coordinator is an MBA, $50,000 a year job. And their job is literally, I'm not making this up, with clipboards, to skulk behind barriers on the plant floor, columns, and take notes about who's working, who's shown up, how long they take for breaks, how long they take for lunch. Now, when I heard this, what the response of senior leadership was, I realized that automotive industry is doomed in this country. This was before General Motors when we realized this in so much danger. But what was really interesting to me, and it's why I started to pursue it, is that you can see in this younger generation, this millennial generation, the kinds of attitudes and perspectives that are directly clashing with traditional approaches to management. And I don't know who's going to win. I mean, the old guys sitting in the beautiful offices in Detroit are just saying, well, what this generation needs is a good recession, and then they'll put up with this nonsense. I'm more hopeful that actually they will continue to resist. Yes?
I just wondering, going back to Detroit, what would you propose as a solution?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that, because the irony of the Detroit story is that we actually have a solution in the experience of automaking that would solve all of the problems with these younger workers, which is when Volvo, for many years, they had cars assembled by teams. So you'd have like 15 to 18 people make one car. That would work brilliantly with this generation, because if you're in a team, you don't just take time off. You work it out. And if you're in a team, you can cover for each other. If you're in a team, you feel more creative, which is a deep need that they have to express their creativity and their individuality. So the irony of this whole Detroit story is that we actually do know already what the solution is, but that's not where it's headed.